Welcome again to oursanskrit.com. This is the third in our series of Sanskrit lessons. If you want a written version of this video, please go to my website oursanskrit.com and go to lesson 3. Thank you. In lesson 2, we looked at declensions. We said that Sanskrit is an inflected language and the functions of a noun or adjective in a sentence is indicated by the endings attached to the word stem. This form used in a sentence is called a case. We saw that Sanskrit has 8 cases, with each case having singular, dual and plural forms. The 8 cases are the nominative, the accusative, the instrumental, the dative, the ablative, the genitive, the locative and the vocative. We looked at a full declensional paradigm for the ending masculine noun drama. We also had a first look at the functions of a noun rendered in different cases. In this lesson, lesson 3, we will look at vowel gradation, the 10 root classes, the formation of the verb stems, and the present indicative active conjugation for classes 1, 4, 6, and 10. We will also look at the middle voice and the conjugational paradigm of the present indicative middle lat atmane padam of the verb lab. In the previous lesson, we talked of ending masculines, ending feminines, etc. Let us quickly get to know the Sanskrit terms for these. Ending masculine word Rama is referred to as Akaranta Pullinga Rama Shabda. Akara means sound A. Anta means ending. So Akaranta means ending. Pullinga means masculine. Shabda means word. Strilinga means feminine. And Napumsakalinga means neutral. And the 3 numbers are Ekavajanam singular, Dvivajanam dual, and Bahuvajanam plural. Let us look at vowel gradation now. Vowels are classified as simple, guna and vriddhi. Guna means a multiple or secondary, and vriddhi means an increment. A is the guna of E and E. I is the vriddhi of E and E. Similarly for the others. It is important to know this because the vowels of many roots and stems go through guna and vriddhi conversion before the addition of endings and affixes. This conversion of a simple vowel to the corresponding guna or vriddhi is called strengthening. Bhu, when guna strengthened or gunated, becomes bho, and when vriddhi strengthened or vriddhid becomes bhav. Ni, when gunated, becomes ne, and when vriddhid becomes nai. Budh, when gunated, becomes bodh, and when vriddhid becomes baudh. Since the guna of a is a itself, vad, when gunated, becomes vad. The vriddhi of a is, however, a, and so when vriddhid, vad becomes vad. Guna strengthening is possible for short and long vowels. However, if a long vowel is followed by a consonant or a short vowel is followed by a cluster of 2 or more consonants, then guna strengthening is not allowed. There is no such restriction on vriddhi strengthening. As mentioned before, there are 10 root classes defined by Indian grammarians. We already saw root class 4 and saw that the present verb conjugation is formed by adding the conjugational endings to the root to which a ya has been added. The other root classes form their conjugation stems in different ways. We'll look at these soon. The 10 root classes are given here. In lesson 1, we saw that the third person singular verb pashyati is derived from the root pash by adding ya to form the verb stem pashya. To this stem is added the personal ending ti. Let us now look at the other root classes. One thing to note here is that in internal sandhi, o plus a becomes ava and a plus a becomes aya. Class 1 roots add an a to the root which has been gunated if possible to form the stem. Then the same endings as we saw for pash are added to get the present active indicative. So let us take the class 1 root bhu to be or to become. The u is gunated to get o. So bhu becomes bho. Then the a is added to get bhava. Then the endings are added. You can derive the complete paradigm as an exercise. Let us take the root ni to lead, which is also of class 1. Ni when gunated gets ne. Then you add a to it to get naya. This is the verb stem. Then add the endings like ti and others. to get nayati and so on. Now if you take the root budh, gunated becomes bodh, adding a gives you bodha, then adding the endings to get bodhadi and so on. Let's take the root vad. Vad when gunated gives vad itself, then you add a to get vada, then add the endings. In a similar manner, we can derive the paradigms for root classes 4, 6 and 10. We already saw the derivation for class 4. We add a ya to the unchanged root and then the endings are added. One thing to note is that this ya is actually ya plus a. In class 6, we simply, without gunating the root, add an a. Let's take the class 6 root vish, to enter. Vish plus a gives you the stem visha, to which the endings are added, to get vishadi and so on. Class 10 roots add an aya or I plus a to the root, which is normally gunated if possible. Now let's take a class 10 root chur, to steal. Chur gunated becomes chor. Adding aya gives you choraya, which is a stem, and then you add the endings ti and others to get chorayadi and so on. There are some exceptions and special cases in the formation of the verb stems of class 1, 4, 6 and 10. Some of the exceptions and special cases are given below. The class 1 roots gum to go and yem to reach form their stems as gacha and yacha respectively. Endings are then added to these to form gachadi and yachadi. The class 6 root ish, to desire, forms the verb stem icha. Some roots lengthen their vowel. The class 1 root kram, to stride, makes the stem krama. Some roots with a nasal before the final syllable lose the nasal, while others add a nasal. The class 1 root dansh, to bite, makes dasha, and the class 6 root sich, to sprinkle, makes sincha. Some of the roots do some form of doubling of their root syllables. This is called reduplication. For example, the class 1 roots stha, to stand, forms tishtha, and pa, to drink, forms piba. We will be looking at reduplication later in detail when we deal with class 3 root verbs. You would have seen that all verb stems of classes 1, 4, 6 and 10 ended with an a. Bhava, pashya, visha and choraya. Endings are then added to these stems. Stems of the other classes do not have this added a at the end of the stem. Verbs from roots of classes 1, 4, 6 and 10 are called thematic verbs and the others are called athematic verbs. We have dealt with the formation of the thematic verb stems above. Athematic conjugation is a bit more complicated and we'll look at this in a later lesson. In lesson 1, we encountered the terms parasmay padam and atmane padam, the active and the middle voices respectively. Originally, the parasmay padam was employed when the action of the verb was directed at another person other than the subject. That is, the action of the verb was transitive. The atmane padam or the middle voice was employed when the action was directed at the self or the subject itself. That is, the action of the verb was reflexive. But in actual usage, this distinction is blurred and the two are used almost interchangeably. We learned that some verbs take only one or the other of the voices, while others take both. In fact, most take both. The middle conjugation is formed exactly like the active one, except that there are a different set of endings. The middle endings for the present indicative are given here. The conjugation paradigms for the middle voice is formed exactly like the paradigm for the active voice. Let us take the class 1 root lab, to get or to acquire. Like before, the stem is formed by gunating, if possible, the root vowel and adding a. Lab, when gunated, becomes lab. You add an a to get labha and then add the ending te to get labhate and so on. So we can say Rama pustakam labhate. Rama gets a book. You can here see why we are using the Atmane Padam for this. The book is for Rama himself. Rama gets a book for himself. The full paradigm for the present indicative middle voice is given here. You will see that there are some deviations from the standard endings in the dual forms and some others. This is the end of lesson 3. In this lesson, first we looked at vowel gradation, at the simple vowel, the guna and the vriddhi. We then looked at the 10 root classes and at the formation of the verb stems and conjugation for classes 1, 4, 6 and 10. We said that these 4 classes together are called the thematic verbs. We also looked at the middle voice and at the conjugational paradigm of the present indicative middle lat atmane padam of the verb lab.